Welcome and hello from Alex, with a story from r/Am I the Bad Guy, where a wife deals with her husband's grieving friend who has become a houseguest overstepping boundaries. Coming up next is a story from Acrobatic Maine 2106. Am I the bad guy for blowing up on my husband's friend after her wife died? My 36 female husband Ian, 44 male, is close friends with a woman named Jenna. They've been friends for a long time, before Ian and I got together, so I know her fairly well too, but we really have nothing in common and we're not exactly friends. Jenna's wife Laura very sadly and somewhat suddenly passed in early March. She was terminally ill but responding to treatment very well and was expected to survive another 2-5 years. She's been leaning on Ian heavily for support, which I understand, but she's been at our house every single day since and even sleeping in our guest room most nights because she doesn't want to be home alone. Which would be okay, except she is getting more and more passive-aggressive towards me and weirdly territorial of Ian. I've reminded myself that I don't think I could stand to see a happy couple for months if I lost Ian, and to be patient, it's not personal. My birthday was on Sunday. I got home Saturday after a morning out and Jenna was there. I was making small talk when I asked Ian what time he made dinner reservations for the next day. Jenna inserted herself right here and asked Ian if he was going to be out the next day, and he said yes. She started panicking and saying that he couldn't and she wasn't ready to spend an evening alone. I was going to tell her that she could still hang out here while we gone, and she looked at me and said, "Don't you have any fucking friends you can go with?" And I just blew the fuck up. "Don't you have any other fucking friends you can go bother?" And so on. She called me selfish for monopolizing my husband, and I had enough and told her to get the fuck out of my house and not to come back, ever. Ian had been trying to calm things down between us, but it spiraled out of control fast, and he ended up escorting Jenna out and telling her that he'd come visit her in a few days, but he would be backing my decision because of how she spoke to me. I was happy for his support and still am, but it's been a few days and I just feel bad all around about it. I should have been more understanding of her, but I also feel like she should treat me more respectfully, and I am not really sure if I overreacted. In this situation, Opie is not the bad guy. Opie's reaction to Jenna's disrespectful behavior was justified given the circumstances. While it's understandable that Jenna is grieving and seeking support, her behavior towards Opie crossed the line, especially in Opie's own home. Opie's blow-up stemmed from feeling disrespected and intruded upon, which is a reasonable response. Opie's husband, Ian, also supported Opie's decision, indicating that Opie's reaction was not unwarranted. It's important for boundaries to be respected, even during times of grief, and Opie was within their rights to assert those boundaries firmly. Overall, Opie's actions were a reaction to being treated unfairly, rather than being the instigator of the conflict. Coming up next is a story from Maleficent Credit 202. Am I the bad guy for telling my husband that if he pays me my hourly rate I will do more housework? I am a steam fitter, but I've been at it for a while and I am in supervision. With bonuses and incentives but not counting benefits, I earn over $100 an hour. I also work out of town. I started doing that once the kids were old enough to take care of themselves with their dad at home. So when my youngest was in middle school and the oldest was a junior in high school. It is great. Our retirement savings are piling up and we have been able to splurge on the kids and ourselves. My husband is upset, however, because I decided to pay for a cleaning lady. He and I discussed it and we agreed that him and the kids didn't do a great job keeping the house clean and tidy while I was away. I hated coming home to a mess. It caused a few fights because it was like they expected me to come home and clean up after them. Having her is fantastic. I come home to a clean house and I am happier. My kids have more time to study and do extracurriculars. They still have chores and they are still expected to clean up after themselves. My husband came to me last time I was home and said we should cut back on the service when I am home, that I should be doing more housework. He thinks that we are wasting money. I said that I work 14 days in a row, and that those are 13-hour days. Yes, it is mostly paperwork, but his job as a teacher isn't much more physically challenging. I said that I could offer him two options. If he wanted, we could completely get rid of the service and him and the kids could make sure the house was in good shape when I got home. Or he could pay me my hourly rate to do extra housework when I am on my days off. He is upset with me and says that I am being financially manipulative. I think if he and the kids actually did what they are supposed to do when I am away, bone of this would be an issue. In this scenario, Opie is not the bad guy. Opie's decision to hire a cleaning service was a practical solution to maintain a clean and tidy home while working long hours out of town. It's understandable that Opie doesn't want to come home to a messy house after such demanding workday. Opie's offer to either continue the cleaning service or be compensated for additional housework during her days off seems fair and reasonable. Opie's husband's reaction appears to be fueled by his reluctance to take on more responsibility rather than any genuine concern about finances. It's evident that Opie's work contributes significantly to the family's financial stability, and her request for assistance with household chores during her limited time off is not unreasonable. Coming up next is a story from Puppeteer. And if you like the video so far, don't forget to like the video. It only takes a second and helps me out a lot. Am I the bad guy for ignoring a crying baby, with its mother present, in a restaurant and continuing to enjoy my dessert? A few days back I was out for dinner with two friends. Anne is pregnant currently, circa 17 weeks. Kim is married for 3 years and currently desperately trying to get pregnant. Because Anne is pregnant, Kim cannot stand the idea of not being pregnant yet, and that is all she can think or talk about. Though it doesn't interest me much, as someone who doesn't plan on ever having children, I happen to have developed a good tolerance for pregnancy, child-related topics because all my friends are either pregnant or parents. During dinner they spoke only about pregnancies and childbirth, where I was hoping to catch up on other topics. I couldn't get them to talk about anything else, despite politely and subtly trying to change the topic several times. But as I understand that these topics interest them more right now, I very politely contributed to the conversation where I could. Otherwise, I let them talk as they pleased. The baby started crying in our vicinity and kept crying for a while even though the mother tried to calm it down. It didn't seem hurt in any way. It seemed to be a normal cry for a baby. I noticed it start crying because it was loud and then didn't notice it anymore. I know it was crying because that's what my friends kept talking about, but I tuned it out and went back to savoring my dessert. The crying was like background noise to me. But then my friends notice how I am enjoying my dessert and not contributing to their conversation about how sad they feel for the baby and how it's making their heart ache. As in, they were having some sort of physical reaction to the baby crying. I tell them that I don't hear the baby cry anymore. They asked me if I had a hearing issue, so I explained how it was like background noise to me after the first 10 seconds. Both of them looked at me in horror and pity. Kim told me that it is good I don't plan on having children because I am heartless and that my baby would be unlucky to be my baby. Anne said that she pities me that I'll never know the feeling that they both had. I laughed at their comments because I thought that Kim wasn't very serious about her comment. And Anne is going through a few hormonal changes with her pregnancy and deserves some leniency regarding what she says to me. But they both got mad at me. According to them, it wasn't something to laugh about. Neither of these comments bothered me at first, but after I posted about it yesterday, I received a lot of comments telling me that they are not good friends. I argued in their favor because of their difficult situations. They are emotionally having a tough time, but after what happened today, I am not so sure anymore. Kim texted me today saying that I need to start showing a little more concern towards crying children if I am to spend time with her future children. When I asked her if my heart should ache every time a strange child cried just because I have a uterus, she called me an asshole. So am I the bad guy for ignoring that crying child? In this situation, Opie is not the bad guy. Opie made a reasonable choice to focus on enjoying their dessert rather than becoming overly distressed by a crying baby, especially since the baby's mother was present and attending to it. Opie's friends, Kim and Anne, seem to have overly emotional reactions to the baby's crying, projecting their own anxieties and frustrations onto Opie. Kim's suggestion that Opie should show more concern towards crying children in the future, especially when considering spending time with her own children, seems unreasonable and unfair. Opie's response to the situation was reasonable, and their friends' reactions appear exaggerated and unwarranted. Coming up next is a story from beginning date 1924. Am I the bad guy for rejecting the worst name ever for our offspring? So, my husband, 38 male, and I, 36 female, are expecting our first child, a bouncing baby girl due in a few months. We were both over the moon when we found out the gender, but now things have gotten complicated, to say the least. See, when we first started talking about names, the boy name was immediately decided, Stuart Jr., after my husband. No problem there, it's a classic name and carries family meaning. But, for a girl, things got murky. My husband suggested Stuarta. No, you're not having a stroke. Apparently, his logic is that since Stuart ends in T, we can just add an A to make it feminine. I tried explaining why that doesn't quite work, how it sounds more like a furniture brand than a human name, how she'd be endlessly correcting people and explaining its origin. He's adamant though, says it honors him while giving our daughter a unique name. I've suggested alternatives, feminine names that maybe share a similar sound or meaning to Stuart, names he's mentioned liking in the past. even just going back to the drawing board entirely. But he's fixated on Stuarta. Now, I love my husband dearly, and I understand wanting to honor family, but I can't imagine subjecting our daughter to a lifetime of awkward stares and endless questions about her unusual name. I also worry about potential bullying and the impact it could have on her self-esteem. So, Reddit, am I the jerk for refusing to budge on Stuarta? Is there any compromise I haven't considered? Help a soon-to-be mama out. Too long, didn't read. Husband wants to name our daughter after himself in a really, really bad way. I think it's terrible and will set her up for a lifetime of awkwardness. Am I the bad guy? Looking forward to your thoughts and some sanity checks. In this scenario, Opie is not the bad guy. While it's understandable for Opie's husband to want to honor his family by naming their daughter after himself, his suggestion of Stuarta is impractical and potentially burdensome for the child. Opie's concerns about the potential negative impact of such an unusual name on their daughter's life are valid. Naming a child is a decision that should prioritize the child's well-being and comfort, rather than solely satisfying the parent's desires. Opie's resistance to the name Stuarta shows her commitment to considering their daughter's future happiness and avoiding unnecessary complications. Coming up next is a story from Educational Error 705. Am I the bad guy for telling my son to pay back the money he spent on his online girlfriend? I, 45 male, have a son, 16 male, that loves to play video games. I purchased him a PlayStation 5 for his birthday last year and he plays online with friends. He's been telling me that he has been chatting online with a girl, 15 female, and they have slowly started dating. They don't talk over the microphone as hers broke and he has no idea what she looks like. I told him to be careful on what he sends her and to not give her any personal information. My son has his own credit card with a limit on it and I told him to not go over the limit and only use it for emergencies. I got the credit card bill for this month and there were charges repeatedly for the game he plays and charges of $50 minus $100. I was furious as he gets gift cards for the games for his birthday and Christmas. I approached him with the bill and asked him what the charges were. He told me that his girlfriend wanted new stuff for the game and would break up with him if he didn't purchase them. I told him that I would pay the charges and that he would have to pay me back the money. I told him that there were many jobs that would hire him. He got angry with me that he wouldn't have time to work as he plays sports and school. I told him that if I was able to balance working and school, he would have no problem doing it. I took his credit card away. He's not speaking to me now only if it's in regards to being picked up or needing a ride to see his friends. He's mad that I am making him pay the money back and get a job. Am I the bad guy for telling my son to pay back the money he spent on his online girlfriend? In my view, Opie is not the bad guy. It seems Opie provided his son with a PlayStation 5 and a credit card with clear instructions on its usage. Opie rightly expects his son to be responsible with the card, especially regarding non-essential expenses like in-game purchases. It's concerning that the son's online girlfriend pressured him into spending money, highlighting potential manipulation or unhealthy dynamics. Opie's decision to make his son pay back the money and consider getting a job to learn financial responsibility is reasonable parenting. The son's reluctance to take responsibility and his reaction suggest a lack of understanding regarding financial accountability, which Opie is rightly trying to address. That wraps up r/Am I the Bad Guy? If you enjoyed this content, make sure to visit my Spotify channel, link is in the description, so you can listen to the best Reddit story while being outside and remember to hit that subscribe button.